Life Management Science Labs would like to acknowledge that we live and produce this podcast on the traditional lands of the Wurundjeri people. We'd also like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the lands of our listeners and our international colleagues. We'd like to pay our respects to their elders, past, present, and emerging. Hello everyone, and welcome to Work in Progress, the Personal Productivity Science Insights podcast produced by LMSL, the Life Management Science Labs. We are champions of life management science, providing structured insights informed by science and inspired by practice on key aspects of conscious living. Each week, we bring you scientific and practical insights on each element with the expert knowledge of professionals in the field. I am your host, Joanna. Let's get started. Hello everyone, welcome back to Work in Progress. I'm your host Joanna, and today we are going to be talking about digital devices, but specifically how we can use them to better enhance our productivity. And I feel like this is such an important topic these days because we're always on our devices, we're constantly using them. Got so many devices around me right now, so hopefully we'll have some tips and tricks to help you use your devices better. And joining me today to do that is our guest, Deb Lee. Deb is a digital productivity coach, certified professional organizer, speaker, productivity consultant, and self-described appaholic. Hi, Deb. Thanks so much for coming on the show.
Oh, thank you for having me. I'm so happy to be here. Thank you.
Yeah, of course. I was just about to say thank you for having me, but I guess, yeah. Beautiful. So I'd love if you could just start off by telling us a bit more about yourself and what you do. You've got so many titles here and credits.
I do.
Tell me a bit about that.
Well, the title that I work on the most these days is digital productivity coach and or consultant. And basically what that means is that I work with small business owners, entrepreneurs, solopreneurs like myself to become more productive, save time, 1 to 2 hours a week, hopefully, by tightening workflows, fixing them, creating them, and then layering in a set of tech tools that help them to execute those workflows. So not a whole bunch, 1 or 2, maybe 3. So a core group of tech tools to help them with what I like to call heavy lifting.
Amazing. And the topic of digital productivity and digital devices is broad, but I feel like it's such a specific sort of topic to work in. So not topic to work in, but, field to work in. So how did you get into that, and what inspired you to focus on devices?
Yeah, such a good question. I have, like many people, a very circuitous route to how I ended up where I am today. And I started out as a professional organizer. So when you first did my intro, you said certified professional organizer. I would walk into people's homes and offices and help them to organize their physical things, their stuff, because there was, a lot of it was in various places and they couldn't find it. They were wasting time searching for things instead of getting the thing done. And then as my own life changed, my personal life, I became married, I had a baby, and having that baby and going back and forth to clients was a little trickier. So being physically present was a little harder. And I had already been working with those clients on productivity and time management, sort of on the side as we were organizing their things. And so it was just a natural progression and segue to move solely into productivity. And I decided to stick with people like myself in terms of, solopreneurship, because it is a tricky spot to be in when you're a solo business owner. And I wanted to be able to help that group and others as well, but help that group in particular to really sort of, turn the dial on productivity. Because when you're by yourself, you are, of course, wearing all the hats. You are doing all the things. You are all the roles in the company. You are the doer, the executor, and you are the person, looking at it from 3,000 feet in the air. You are doing all the things. And so I have a special place in my heart for those of us who try to make that attempt. And so the technology was always something that I enjoyed. And I use a lot of tech myself. I am, as you mentioned, and I like to say very fondly, an appaholic. I really like testing out new apps. I like seeing what's out there, what can help me just even become 1% better or more productive, save more time, that's always important to me.
Yeah, and it's really interesting how you talk about like testing out different apps, because
Yes.
I feel like if you look at my phone in different sort of seasons and chapters of my life, you'll be able to kind of like see what's going on for me. Like if I've
Yes.
got a bunch of little fun games on my phone, it's because I'm a bit bored, trying to find something fun, trying to find a little hobby. If I've got like a bunch of running apps or like fitness apps, you'll know I'm trying to get into like working out a bit more. So it's really interesting that you mentioned that.
The apps do come in seasonally. Sometimes people bring those apps with them, like say at the beginning of the year. New year, new you, new start.
Oh, yeah.
You're going to become the renewed you, and then the apps come along with that. And I like to tweak that a little. I love apps, but I don't think you need a whole bunch to get the job done.
Oh yeah, definitely. And I've noticed that I will have those phases and I will download all the apps, and then give me 2 weeks and there's probably one left, if that. So yeah.
The best app, the best one out there is the one that you will use. That is the best one. If you have 50 apps that have amazing ratings, great downloads, and they're just fabulous, but you don't use them, they're not serving you. So to your point, you know, in the beginning, when we're all excited and very motivated, we will download all the things. But what we really need to do is find the one or the two that work with the way that we work and that syncs with our brain and how we think about things. If the learning curve is really high, you're not going to use that app, no matter how fabulous it is.
Oh, yeah.
So it does take a little bit of trial and error on that in that regard.
Definitely. And I love that the best app out there is the one you will use. That is so on point, because we often have all these apps and we just don't use them and they sit there because it either doesn't work with us or we just don't like it, or it's not something we see as a part of like our routine.
It does take some time. So I know that when I say to someone, really integrate this app in your day-to-day routine, I want you to give it 6 weeks, 8 weeks, maybe longer. I really want you to actively try to insert this into a workflow and use it to see if it really works. That takes time. And I don't think we want to put that time up front because it can feel a little uncomfortable. It's new, it's different. We're trying to make it work. But when you find the right app, that process, the work up front, oh goodness, it's so worth it. Well worth it, because you come out on the other side with something that works, saves you time, so you can focus on other things, even if those other things mean you're not doing anything. You're putting your feet up, you're taking a vacation or taking a much needed break, or maybe it's business development or that class you always wanted to take or the hobby you wanted to dive back into. So to think about it in terms of putting in the time up front now, but the reward at the end is just golden.
Yeah, definitely. And I definitely agree with what you've said. I'd love to just quickly get to know you a bit more before we dive into this. I can already tell we'll have so much to talk about. Yeah. So we have a section called Have You Met Deb Lee? So here I just have a few little fun get to know you questions, and then we can get right back into everything. So my first question is, what is your favorite book?
Okay, so I talk about this book all the time. And ironically, I just heard someone say they didn't like it, but I wholeheartedly love it. It's called The Checklist Manifesto by Atul Gawande. It is about the lonely checklist, the little tiny checklist of maybe 10 things that can help you to become that 1% better, or in his case, as a doctor, save someone's life. So The Checklist Manifesto, highly, highly recommend it.
Amazing. I will have to check that one out. I feel like every time I ask people this question, they always have so many cool book recommendations, and I'm like, oh, I want to read that, and I never get around to it. But I will.
We should talk about that.
We should talk about that.
We should talk about that.
It probably has something to do with my phone or my laptop. Honestly, that's probably the reason why I don't. But we'll get there.
We'll get there.
Oh, great. So the next question I have for you is, what movie have you recently enjoyed?
Oh, this one I really liked. I didn't think I would like it. So my kiddo said, let's watch this movie called Wonka. It is based on the book Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. And it's the prequel to the movie that came out years ago. So I loved it. It was refreshing and fun and interesting, and just I loved it. I loved it.
Yeah, I watched that one.
Oh, did you?
About 3 months ago now.
So
it
good.
was amazing. It was so fun, and I
Yeah.
love Timothée Chalamet.
Me
He's so
too.
great. Yeah, he's
Yeah.
so cute in it. I love it.
Me too. Same.
Great. And I've got a couple more here for you. So
Yes.
my next one is, do you have a role model or maybe anyone you look up to?
I would say that would be my mom.
Yeah.
So my mom lives with me now, and I've seen her go through so many phases of life. She herself was a business owner up until just a few years ago, had beauty salons when I was growing up, and allowed me to have my own little piece of that. I was the nail tech in her beauty salon, and I watched her sort of grow as a person, and I saw her become this business owner. And then, I moved here to be with us, and she's gone through some challenging times because my dad passed away recently. So to see her come through that very sort of upheaval, that moving is an upheaval, even if it's one that you want. But then, this other thing that was unexpected also happened. And so I would say she would be the one at the top of my list. Just seeing her come through this with grace and kindness still in her heart. Yeah, she's my one.
Oh, that's so lovely. And thank you for sharing that with us.
Yes.
I've got one last question here for you. And that is, are you listening to any podcasts at the moment?
There is. So podcasts and I have, I'm all in it or I'm not in it sort of relationship. However, there is one that I have been listening to, and it's called Do This, Not That. And it's a marketing podcast. And what I love about this podcast, well, one, it's fun and it's interesting, but it's also short. So it's quick, consumable. I can walk and listen to it. I can be on the treadmill and listen to it. I can do laundry and listen to it. So I've been listening to that one recently.
Great. And I love short podcasts, or I love ones where you can be doing something and listen to it as well. Because I was on the train today and I was listening to a podcast, but I also just could not concentrate on it because I was doing other stuff. And I was like, I need a podcast where I can still take it all in while doing my thing, because that's just how I work, I guess. But
and those that are really giving you the meat right up front.
Oh yeah.
The do this, do that. Or don't do this, but do this thing over here. It's very clear, succinct, interesting, and fun. And I think helps you to sort of then take action. It's like someone listening to this. I would love for someone to come away with one thing that they're going to take action on. And so that's why I love those short ones. They're really good.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Definitely. Perfect. I feel like we can dive back into what we were talking about. Now, before we get into the meat, I guess, of this podcast, I'd love if we could define, digital devices and productivity in that context.
So I've billed myself as a digital productivity coach. And for some people, digital productivity can mean you have all of your digital files organized appropriately in a way that you can find them quickly and easily. And that is, in a sense, digital productivity, because you can put your finger on it. You don't have to go searching and wasting time. But there is the add-on that I like to talk about, which is how can the tech tool help you become better? And better just means more efficient, more productive, do the thing that you need to do without trying to figure out what you need to do. So the workflow, the process, what are the steps, and how does this tech tool help me to execute? And does it help me to do my job more quickly, more efficiently, still solid, not sloppy, right? Still solid, but help me to do it in the most effective way. And so for me, it encapsulates those two things. It's, yes, the digital files that you're trying to find and the proper naming convention. And are you using a cloud storage management system to find what you're looking for? Yes to that, but also how is the tech tool helping me to become more efficient so I can really focus on what's important? Whether and that might change, that goalpost might change, but the tech tool will always do the right job for you.
Oh, yeah. And why is effective digital device management so important, and how does it sort of contribute to our lives and our well-being?
Well, we use the tech all the time. We were talking off camera about that, right? So
Yeah.
we have so many devices at our disposal. Right now, I'm wearing one, right? I have one off to my right. And those are just the two things I carry around with me every day. But for this recording, we've got all kinds of tech happening. So there's an influx of it in our lives. And if we don't know when to insert it and when to put it back on the shelf, then there becomes an imbalance. I don't think everything is always balanced. I don't think that we're ever going to get, work and family will always be equally balanced and things will always work. That being said, there's an integration that will happen between work and family, and the technology can help us bridge that gap if we use it in the way that helps us to do the thing we need to do, and then we put it away and we go off and we have family. I know sometimes family time comes with the digital device, and so there has to be some boundaries for when does it come out and we're all using it collectively for a fun purpose, and when does it go away for a deeper, more meaningful conversation and interaction and connection.
Yeah, and I'd love to draw on this idea of when does it come out and when should we put it away. So off camera, we were talking about habits, and I feel like this is the perfect time to bring it up. So how do we know when it's the right time to bring out those devices and use them? How do we know when it's the right time to put them away and focus on, I don't know, whatever else we've got going on?
So there are a couple of things happening, and I think our setting where we are will help guide us in terms of when do we take them out. So naturally, when we walk up to our desk at work, we're going to take some sort of device out, some of us, right? Depending on the type of job that you have. And so you will open up the laptop or grab your phone or your tablet and begin the workday. Now, as you transition from the top of your day into lunchtime, do you take your phone with you to lunch when you're having lunch with a colleague? And is the phone out and about with you? Is it a third party with you? Is it interrupting your conversation with that colleague or someone that you really want to talk to? So I think we'll start finding those moments when there's a little bit of friction, and there's some etiquette around when the phone comes out, or if the phone rings while we're having a conversation, do we put the phone on do not disturb or silent so we can have that undivided attention? Some of this really falls under that purposeful use of a device, the mindful use of a device. I open my device to do X or Y. I put my device away when I am finished with X and Y. And when I'm speaking to another human being, my device is not a part of that conversation unless I'm showing them a picture. And even then, it's more superficial. But the conversation is where the meat, it's where the good stuff, the sweet spot, it's where the things are happening. So I think for each of us, we have to find our way in that sort of pattern. And what patterns and habits are we trying to really cultivate? So if work is always calling you and you always need to have the device, maybe when it's time to wind down from work, the device gets put in a place where it's not elevated in your day-to-day or in your end routine of the day, but that it's really more put aside. I spoke to someone once who said that he has a box as he walks in his home. There is a box that he just puts his phone in and he walks away from the phone.
Wow. I feel like I need a box like that, because what you said before about like your device kind of, is it a third party? I feel like a lot of people can relate to that, because I don't know what it is, but I feel like drawn to my phone whenever I feel like I don't have anything to do with my hands. I don't have anyone to talk to. I'm like, where's my phone? It's my friend. Let me grab my phone out, because it makes me feel secure and comfortable. If I'm walking around somewhere and I don't want to make eye contact, I'm like, let's just go on my phone. Let's just bubble.
I mean, back in the day, we would, we'd look at our watch. We didn't have a phone all the time, so we'd look down at our watch, right? To we're not just standing on this corner. We're looking at our watch, because that means we're waiting for someone. We want to keep our brains occupied, and the phone and the apps it's not the phone inherently, but it's the apps on the phone that give us that hit of dopamine. I'm just going to scroll social media just for 2 minutes while I'm waiting right here. And then 2 minutes turns into 30. And you don't know where the time has gone. Or maybe you reach for your phone for a specific purpose and 20 minutes have gone by and you've forgotten what that purpose was. If that is happening on the regular for you and you are unable to put the phone, quote unquote, in its place, then yeah, it's probably time to start rethinking your relationship with the phone and how you use it. So you are not inherently bad. There is nothing wrong with you. However, your relationship with your device or devices, because, I have a phone, maybe my partner has a phone, maybe my kiddo has a phone, and then there's a tablet, and then maybe there's a family laptop, and all these devices start to multiply. They're almost everywhere you go. And then the human-to-human connection starts to dissipate. It's not as strong. We don't have the conversations that we used to have. And so that's where that mindfulness, purposeful reaching for of your phone. And if you ever want to get a splash of cold water in your face, check your phone statistics and it will tell you how often you pick it up and how long you use it and what you were using it for. And it will be very stark information. It will be data that will inform your use of your device and can help you make that next step to using it more purposefully. So I'm not saying put the phone away. I think we need our phones. We need our devices to help us do the thing that we're trying to do.
Yeah.
And what we need to do is build a habit of, I reached for my device purposefully. I have used it in the way that I needed to use it. I have done the thing. I am now finished and I'm putting my phone here, or I'm putting it away. Or I'm meeting with a friend for lunch. I don't even take the phone out. It stays in my purse or in my backpack. And we both agree that it's a device away and a conversation between the two of us.
Yeah.
So it's a mindful, purposeful use of your device.
Yeah. And would you say that one challenge that we do face is the relationship with our devices and how that actually affects our physical relationships with people?
I think it can, because we might turn to the device. I mean, it's a one-way communication. Yeah. I am receiving information. I might be typing or thumb typing something in, but I'm receiving information. What we are doing today, you and I, requires attention. I have to focus on you. I have to hear what you're saying, understand what you're saying, process what you're saying. That takes some doing. And the phone doesn't require that. Yeah. It just requires that hit of dopamine that's coming from that scroll. And you see something funny, so it makes you laugh, and that's another hit. That's like, oh, that's great. But it's not the same. So it can get in the way of the physical relationship. There has been a study done that says, some of us would prefer to not shower, not eat, not drive, not speak to another human being, rather than having our phones taken away. No eating, no sleeping, no driving, no talking. All because we want to keep the phone. Yeah. So if we are in that space, what I say is, okay, so we recognize that maybe we need to shift the relationship with an inanimate object that does not interact with us the way that another human does.
Yeah.
And we use it for a purpose. And we engage with a human being on a deeper level.
So I would love to bring in some habits now, because I feel like we've integrated a lot of our devices into little habits in our daily life. So I'd love to talk about what some of the common habits are that you know of, but I'd love to start off with one that is pretty dominant in my life. So it's waking up and the first thing I do is scrolling on my phone. And it's a habit that makes me not feel so great about myself and like what I do, but I just keep doing it because you were talking about that dopamine hit before. So let's dive into this.
So the habit is the phone is within arm's reach, and my brain and body knows that once I'm awake, that it's right there. And all I have to do is reach over and grab it. And even before I touch it, like the feelings of, oh, let me see what's happening. Let me check my email. Let me check Facebook or TikTok. Let me do all the things before your feet even hit the ground. So the reversal of that so over time, you got into that habit. And so you need to give yourself some grace, right? Because to reverse that means you have to take one step that's going to delay the arm reaching for that phone. So I don't want you to take 10 steps, just one step. Do the one action that can help you to delay that time so that you can say, oh, okay, I'm awake. I feel great. Today's Friday. Woohoo, it's Friday. Tomorrow's Saturday. I love it. And you can even have a thought. Let's say I need to have at least one thought that comes into my brain before I touch that phone. And if you can string that together, multiple days of I must get to at least one thought, one positive, life affirming, positive thought before I even touch the phone, you start developing that habit. And maybe you tack on another one and say, well, I'm going to make it a little bit harder for me to reach that phone. I'm going to put the phone not on my nightstand. I'm going to put it at the top of the stairs.
Yeah.
So that I can't reach it immediately. So now I'm going to have more than one thought. I'm going to have 2 positive thoughts, 5 positive thoughts, whatever those are. And then my feet are going to hit the floor. And then I can reach for my phone. Or maybe I might delay that even further and say, I'll reach for it after I've brushed my teeth or washed my face or taken my shower, after I'm dressed for work. You start delaying and practicing that feeling of, it's okay, I'm still alive. I didn't touch it the minute I woke up. It's all right. It's been 10 minutes. It's been 15 minutes. Oh, wow. Today I made it to 30 minutes.
Yeah.
So to be able to give yourself the practice of building the habit, so much like building muscles, it takes reps. And so you have to practice doing this. And some days you don't feel like doing it. And some days you're very motivated and you do it. And so you just have to keep that practice going, all knowing that at the end of this, you will have a better relationship with the device. And maybe you might have to put the phone downstairs in a box. Maybe that's what you do.
Yeah.
But if you're like me and you use the phone as your alarm clock, then what? Right? So now we start getting into some gray. So the alarm goes off. Do I silence the alarm and then all of a sudden the phone's in my face? Or is it I silence the alarm, I leave the phone where it is, I get up and I walk away and maybe I do some stretching? Or maybe, a mindful moment. Maybe I'm doing my affirmations then. Whatever it is that will help you start your day, because you're going to have this phone with you later. It's not like it's not coming with you. It's going to be with you, but it's building the habit for the person you wish to become.
Yeah.
It's building the habit for the person you wish to become. So you're going to pretend in this moment that you are that person, and that future you would not pick up the phone immediately, not today. Sometimes maybe future you might fail a little bit on that, and that's okay. That's all right. But the future you is really getting more of the check boxes, and the phone is getting fewer.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? Yeah?
Definitely does. And I feel like the alarm one is really great because my alarm is on my phone as well. And when I go to hit that alarm, I'm like, oh, but my phone's already in my hand. I might as well just open it.
Might as well just check.
Yeah, exactly.
You can. And so here's what happens for me. So I showed this to you earlier. I'm wearing a device on my wrist, which ironically tracks my sleep. So I sleep with it on my wrist some nights, not all nights, but some nights. And I like to see the stats, the data. I love data. I want to see how long did I sleep. I want to see the quality of my sleep. When was I in REM? Did it change from 2 nights ago? Is it the same? Is it, what's my heart rate variability? I can get sucked into that. So I allow myself to look at my sleep stats. And then I have to put the phone down. And I must get up. And there are days when I don't make that grade. There are days when I'm still digging into stats. It's what I'm saying is we are really trying to be that person for the most part. Some days trickier than others, but it's to make that effort.
Yeah. And I feel like based on what you're saying, it's not about totally eliminating your phone and being like, nope, let's cut it out completely. It's about finding ways where you can still integrate it into your life in the moments that it needs to be there.
Correct. And there might be some people who do want a more digital minimalist, very, very less reliant on their phone. And I understand that. And if that is what works for them, I think what we're not trying to do here is create this cookie cutter, everyone must do it this way. I think we need to look inside ourselves and decide, okay, this is the way my life is set up. Here are some changes I wish to make. I could be on one side of, I don't want any devices at all, or I want all the devices, or somewhere in between. And how I interact with them will be an integration and not a sole focus on the device itself. So and I can make a decision like, I'm having a conversation today. I'm having dinner today. I'm having lunch today. I'm having a walk today. The device will be in my purse or my backpack. If I'm listening to my audiobook while I'm walking, I don't have to hold it. It can be in my back pocket. It can be someplace else. I don't have to be interacting with it, but I can listen. I can actually even not listen to an audiobook right now on this walk, and I can just notice what's around me.
Yeah.
I can make that decision.
Yeah, certainly. And what you said before about like, who do you want to be and be that person now? I feel like a lot of people might be like, okay, just get rid of your phone entirely, only use it for 1 hour a day. But also I think it's important to stay authentic to who you are. Like if you are the type of person that wants to be on your phone, but also wants to carve out a lot of quality time with friends, family, doing your little hobbies, then stay true to what is true to you, as opposed to, oh, social media is telling me I've really got to cut down on being on my phone because all these influencers are now digital detoxing, you know?
So I don't think when we take extreme action that we always get the result that we're looking for.
Yeah.
I think we can want an extreme or great result, but it takes these small steps, these baby steps, a little plus a little equals much. That these steps get us there. When we do the extreme, I'm going to lose 50 pounds in a month. It's January 1st, and this is my goal. I'm going to be healthier. I'm only going to be eating healthy food, no snacks. That falls apart pretty quickly.
Oh, yeah.
It falls apart. So be reasonable, be realistic, and know yourself. Know what those pitfalls are. So if you know that chocolate chips are the thing that gets you to just, break the diet, then maybe you have a little bit during the week, or maybe you save up your chocolate for the weekend and you have your 1 bite or your 2 bites, but you find a way to make it sync with your brain.
Yeah.
Now, for me, if I create a streak, so currently I have a streak. I have an app that I use called Balance. It's a motivation app, and I get affirmations and meditations and all kinds of things. And I like listening to the ocean sounds. I've been listening to ocean sounds for over a year. Wow. Every night, I hear ocean sounds floating around in my room. I love
that.
I love it, right? So it does something for me. It tells me that it's bedtime, right? I love it. And then I have built up a streak. So I know if I get to 1 day of using something, that's not enough to get me there. If I get to 7 days of doing something, then I could probably get to 14. And I know if I get to 30, I will get to 60. I know this about myself. And so I push those first 7 days, first 10 days, 14 days, I push to get there because I know once I get to 14, 30 is right around the corner. And that's my dopamine hit, the streak. So knowing yourself, knowing what's going to work for you, your personality, your work style, just your learning style, it takes a little doing and trial and sort of tinkering and figuring out who you are at the core and how you're going to transform to the future you. It's not an overnight transformation. Nothing is, right? So it does take some time. And I layer in, give yourself grace, because it doesn't always work or go as planned on some days. And that's all right. That's okay.
Yeah. And what are some other common challenges or habits that people might face? I feel like it's so important to be like, this is totally normal. Like everyone has their little thing. For me, it's the scrolling in the morning. But what are some other sort of things that might pop up for people?
I think primarily it's when it involves other human beings and having the device become the third party or the other party in the conversation when it doesn't need to be. It's not necessary. It's not elevating the conversation in any way. Do you need your device to help you with directions? Yeah, I need it for that. So I will absolutely pull it out. But if I'm walking with someone, do I really need to do that? Probably not.
Yeah.
So I think it's finding those specific moments in your day when you are not working and required to use that device. Lunchtime, breakfast, taking a break. As you walk to the water cooler, do we still have those moments where we walk to the water cooler? Are you walking and looking down at your phone? How many accidents could we avoid if we're paying attention and not looking at our phone while we're walking?
Oh, yeah.
Right? So there are these small moments that on their own, okay, so today I'm looking at my phone while I'm walking to wherever I'm going. All right. But now today, so we build up a streak that way too. And now that streak becomes a habit. So it's to really find those moments in our day when the phone is not required or the device is not required. So do you need your device at the start of your day to wake you up? Okay, sure. Could you use a different device to wake you up? Absolutely. Would doing that help you to not use your phone so much and start scrolling in the morning? Probably. Are you willing to try it? Okay, I could try it for a day or two. Let me see how that works. So you're building your way up to that. So I think for each of us, those moments will be different.
Yeah, definitely. And I think, before you mentioned how it's not about getting rid of our devices, but hey, how can we integrate a few other steps in there before we reach for our device? Or how can we have better judgment for when we need to pull out our device or when we should be talking to someone else? Yep. So in terms of that, when we start doing those things, when we start putting in those extra steps, when we start using our judgment, how can we see changes in our productivity?
So when you put the phone or the device in its proper place, you use it more purposefully and more mindfully. And you're using it to enhance what you're already doing. It's an enhancement. It's not the whole thing. It's enhancing what you're doing. So is my workflow, first of all, I like looking at the workflow first. Is what I am doing at work correct? Are the steps clear to me? Do I know what happens first and then second and then third? And is there another person that gets inserted in this process or workflow? And then is the tech tool saving me some time? Yeah. Am I manually writing checks or am I allowing my tech to do that? Yeah. Am I running to the bank or am I allowing my tech to do that? So to look at your workflow and seeing if the tech is helping you to execute and elevate that process. So that would be one. And then making those decisions about when you can pick up the phone and call someone and have the conversation or walk up to someone's office or knock on the door or have a video call to have a conversation versus, because when you can certainly Google things and you can go online and pick up the phone, I think we reach for it rather quickly, right? And we don't look for the alternatives because they take longer. Yeah. Picking up the phone and calling someone can take a really long time. Oh, yeah. It doesn't have to, but it can because there are pleasantries. Hi, how are you? And, you go through that. And then I called because, and then someone says, oh, can you hold on for a second? And so we almost have to relearn how to communicate with each other without the device. But when you are at work, obviously looking at that process and how the tech tool can help you to execute efficiently and on a regular, consistent basis.
Yeah. And I'd love to talk about this idea of device as a reward. So there are people who are like, okay, I'm going to work on my essay for an hour and then I'm going to reward myself with 15 minutes of scrolling on my phone. Is that a good way to manage your relationship with your device, like through reward or positive reinforcement?
I love it. I love it. I think I love it if it works for you.
Yeah.
And you actually can stick to 15 minutes of scrolling.
Oh, yeah.
That's the kicker right there, right?
Yeah.
So maybe you say to yourself, I'm going to try for 15 minutes, but I'm not just going to try. I'm going to set a timer on my phone. The same phone that I'm going to be scrolling with, I'm going to set a timer on that for 15 minutes. And when that timer goes off, it doesn't matter where I am in my process of scrolling or reading or consuming a podcast, I am going to stop.
Yeah.
And I'm going to get up, get some water, move my body, which tells my body it's time to change and do something different away from my phone. Right? So yes, I love using games on your phone are a great way to just get a break throughout the day. There's a game I love playing called 2 Dots. It's amazing. It's fun. But I only play it at certain times. I also have an app that I use to learn a different language. I use Duolingo to learn Spanish, but I can't play a game until I learn my Spanish. And I'm usually doing that when I'm walking. So I'm also adding it to something else that's good for me, that makes me feel good. And it's also limited because I can't walk all day.
Oh, yeah.
Right? It's limited. So I'd say give yourself some time frames and really get an understanding of what time feels like. I think we all think, that only takes 5 minutes. It won't take that long. And 5 minutes stretches into 20 and 30. So when you set the timer, it gives you that, so that was 15 minutes. It went by quickly. 15 minutes goes by a lot quicker than we realize. So using a simple tool like a timer, even the timer on the, in your kitchen, use that one to help you sort of gauge time more effectively. And use the game on your phone or the app on your phone that's fun as your reward. Maybe the reward is happening at the end of the day. Because now you have a little bit more room to play with that and you're not taking away from the workday so much. Or maybe it's right at the end of the lunch hour or the lunch time. So to think about ways that will work for you so that you're not trying to find a workaround. The goal is not for you to find a workaround to keep playing on the phone. It's to create the habit and let that be the dopamine hit. Let the habit I did it for 7 days straight. I didn't think I could do that. Wow. Yeah. And really build that and let that be the thing that you look forward to.
And in terms of increasing our productivity with our devices, would you say that there are any apps that we can use to help that? Or would it be counterproductive to use an app to help us be more productive with our devices?
I don't think it's counterproductive. It still involves some mindfulness and some purposeful reaching for the device. I would say if I wouldn't go app crazy, I love apps, but I wouldn't go app crazy. And I would recommend, so at the outset, I said the best one is the one that you'll use. So check that box. But also if you're already using, let's say you're a Microsoft user and you're using Outlook, then maybe, and you like that ecosystem, then stay within that ecosystem and use that suite of products. If you prefer Google, as I do, then you're going to be using that suite of products and maybe inserting others that integrate well with those two. So make it easy for yourself. Use the favorite apps that you love using and make sure when you add something to your own personal ecosystem that they integrate seamlessly and well for you. There are so many apps that do so many amazing things. I like to know where I'm supposed to be and what time because I like to be 15 minutes early. I was actually half hour early for today because I just wanted to check the tech. I was doing all of those kinds of things. And so I had an alarm that said, okay, 7:30, you need to be in front of your computer. So I was. And then 7:45, turn things on. Let's go. Make sure the lighting is good. Do all the things that you need to do. So to be able to find the routine that works for you is really, really key. But find the apps that sync with your brain, that don't give you a large learning curve, make it easy for yourself. There are so many things out there. I mean, I love Google. So Gmail, Google Calendar, where to be. I mean, I checked my Google Calendar several times today to make sure I had all the dates and all the times correct. Task management, there's so many for that as well. Like Todoist is an amazing one. Evernote Tasks is another good one. Google Tasks is excellent. Love it. Integrates with all the Google products. It's fabulous. So it really does depend on how the thing that drives your day. For me, it's my calendar. And for you, it might be your project management tool, or it might be your to-do list. So whatever that is, let's say you are using, Google Tasks, then maybe you might be considering using Google Calendar to kind of mesh those two things together. So look for ways to tighten those connections so that it's easier for you. And that means less work on your part to try to find something that's going to work, because all the Google Suite products work together. Same thing for Microsoft and Zoho and all of those other ones. So yeah, make it easy for yourself.
Yeah, I love that. Make it easy for yourself and create like a suite of what works for
your
you.
Personal suite. So what you are doing is creating your formula. It's for you. Yeah. And maybe somebody might take your formula as a template and pull one thing out and put something else in, or move things around. And that's perfectly fine, because that's for them. So this really is all about you.
Yeah, great. And we've talked about so many different things here. So we've talked about time, we've talked about judgment, we've talked about apps, we've talked about habits. And now I'd love to jump into our practices and habits section here. So we're going to take a bit of what we've already talked about and apply some practices that people can use. So is there a practice, a specific one or a tip that you would recommend for people to help manage digital addiction?
So not a psychologist or medical professional, so I can't diagnose when someone has an addiction to a device, but I can certainly say if someone is finding that friction and they can see that it's creating a problem with their interpersonal relationships, with getting work done because you're continually in the device, then yes, we need to make some changes. So I want to just start by saying that. And then figuring out what your goals are. What's the goal for the day? And what's the goal for the day when you're at work? And what's the goal for the day when you're not? And how do those two things line up to present you with what you're looking for, that future you that we talked about earlier? What are you looking to accomplish? And so I wish there was a cookie cutter answer for this. I want to say A plus B equals C, and there you go. Go do that, everybody. But it really does depend on where you are right now, your relationship to the device, and your concerted effort and commitment, because it is a commitment to yourself, present self, and especially future self, to make those changes. If you prefer paper and pencil and a more analog way of doing things, nothing wrong with that. But how are you going to insert in a purposeful way the technology to help you to do the thing better? I think that's the sweet spot that we're trying to get to. So, we would have to, I would love to have a listener say, okay, so I'm a nurse or I'm a doctor and I always have my pager with me. I can't get away from it. I have to have, or I'm a day trader. I have to have my phone with me. I can't not. How can you build in moments when you're not tethered to it? Because that's the paradox, is it not? The thing that helps us to do all the things, to be connected, to work from anywhere, to have a conversation like this across the pond, to be able to do all of those things. The phone and the technology is amazing. It's great. Yeah. It makes you available. But that's the paradox. It makes you always available.
Yeah.
And when do those boundaries get drawn? And so finding the habits or building the habits is very personal to each of us, because of each of us has different goals. What are we trying to achieve? And so I hope that answered the question. It's not the cookie cutter answer in terms of A plus B equals C, but for each of us, we need to find the sweet spot.
Yeah, well, I'd love if we could maybe use me as a case study. Let's hope that people can take something from this. So for me, technology, I'm a student as well. So
Okay.
technology is always around me, always need it. But it's also one of my biggest inhibitors, but it's also one of my biggest resources. So
Yeah.
recently I've been trying to do this thing where instead of watching Netflix before I go to bed and normally
Yes.
falling asleep while I've got my laptop out, I try to pop on like a 20-minute meditation and I do
Oh,
that
would love it.
instead.
Love
And that's
it.
on my device though. So it's on
Okay.
YouTube. But recently I've been struggling with sticking to that. I'm like, oh, it's 11. I'm tired. I could do this meditation, or I could just do the easier thing, chuck on some Netflix, don't need to use my brain, don't need to do anything. And now there's
Yes.
this like battle between using my device for what I know is good for me and using my device for that easier thing where I don't need to, put in that much
Yes.
effort.
So you need to talk to future you a little bit and connect with that person and build in those days. So for the times that you are actually doing your meditation and you're checking that box, I love the notion and the idea that there's going to be some reward for you at the end. Like I go through my whole week, the entire week, every night this week, I have done my, maybe not 20 minutes, maybe 20 minutes is too long and my brain is saying, oh, that sounds really too long and I want Netflix now. Maybe I shave that back and I say, I'm going to do 3 minutes tonight, but I'm checking that box. I'm going to do 3 minutes tonight. And maybe tomorrow we'll see. Maybe tomorrow I might do 10 if I feel like I can do that. And if I can't, I'm going to stick with my 3 minutes. What's my minimum threshold? What's the minimum I'm willing to do? Because 20 minutes sounds like a long time. If I tell myself I have to do a 20-minute yoga session, I'm probably not going to do it.
Yeah.
But if I say to myself, all I have to put in is 5 minutes, 5, that's it. 5 minutes, down dog, that 5 minutes, forward bend, 5 minutes, just 5 minutes. I can do 5 minutes. I dare say all of us can do anything for 5 minutes. So you talk yourself into the 5 minutes, and you might find yourself facing 5 minutes. And sometimes you find yourself putting in more. Sometimes it's, oh, wow, I didn't realize it's been 10 minutes. Wow, I did that for 10 minutes. Okay, check my box. I'm going to do that again tomorrow. So make it easy. I wish we had, that easy button. There's an easy button. I forget what company it was. Used to have an easy button. You just hit the big red button. I wish we could just do that in all facets of life. So we have to make those things easier for us to do it. So bite-sized, baby step chunks of time makes it easy for your brain to say yes. If there's a reward at the end of my 7 days, so I commit to 3 minutes of a meditation at night, so my nightly routine, 7 days, then on day number 8, is there a reward waiting for me? What is that? Coffee with my bestie. Buying that thing at Sephora. I know I'm coming up with stuff. I don't know. Whatever that might be for you, whatever lights you up. A book that you've been meaning to get, a hike you've been meaning to take, whatever that might be. Alone time away from everybody else because you're always with people. Whatever it is, tack on that reward for yourself. It really does help to motivate you and reward you for the effort that you've put in for the 7 days. So reduce the time and make it easy for your brain to say yes.
Ooh, I love that. Make it easy for your brain to say yes. And I feel like that'll actually work because a lot of the time I'm like, 20 minutes. I know it makes me feel good after I do it, but I have to press play. I have to go through the 20 minutes and I'm like, we'll put it aside for now. But I feel like doing those 3 minutes and then the next time I might be like, I've got 5 minutes in me. So let's do 5 minutes.
Yes. Put in the effort and the commitment to doing that and make it reasonable so that it's easy to say yes. And 3 minutes, really 3 minutes goes by so quickly. The only time that I think 3 minutes does not go quickly is when I'm doing a plank. I do not like doing plank.
So
3
slow.
minutes is like 3 hours. That's a slog. So for me, if it's a plank, I say, okay, 30 seconds. See, 3 minutes sounds like 3 hours, but 30 seconds, I can do 30 seconds.
Yeah.
I can totally do 30 seconds. I can sing the ABC song in 30 seconds. I can do I can do 30 seconds. And after that, I could probably do another round of 30. So you talk yourself into it because the time, 3 minutes, 30 seconds, my brain is naturally going to choose 30 seconds. So, yeah, shorten that time.
Amazing. I love this. Thank you so much for sharing that insight and using me as like a little case study
well,
here.
Thanks for letting us use you. I'm like, I want to use somebody. Yes.
Of course. I feel like that allowed us to, I'm sure not everyone can relate to my specific case, but I'm sure there's little bits that people can take out of that. And I'm sure you've got a challenge with your technology that you're trying to, manage as well. So it's all about, like what you said, finding what works for you and baby steps as well. Don't try and, go for the moon when, you're just trying to reach the stars. So
I think, for some things, the moon is a perfectly great spot to reach for. But when we're trying to change behavior, that's a marathon. Think of it as a marathon and not a sprint. And so behavior change really requires those slight incremental adjustment, is like turning a dial, and you're just ever so slightly changing the course of your life. And if you think about that, that's rather profound.
It is.
Little tiny incremental steps presents you with your future self who is mindful, purposeful, happy, all of the things. So if you think of that as the end result, it's just tiny steps to get there, it's manageable. It's doable. And it's exciting knowing that you get to meet that person soon enough, that you're going to meet up with that person.
Oh, yeah. So, that sounds so exciting because that person will always be in the future unless you're taking those steps to meet them. And even if it's 3 minutes a day of steps, that still counts and you're still moving forward.
I think we discount the effort because it's tiny.
Yeah.
Baby steps is still progress. Half an inch. 1 step forward. 3 steps. A large leap. A big hop. All of those. It's progress. So we shouldn't discount the tiny movements forwards because they add up over time and they give us the large leap that we're looking for. And before you know it, you are looking at future you. And you're like, hey, great to see you. I've been working hard for you.
Yeah.
It's a proud moment.
Look at that. We've taken digital productivity. We've taken our devices, which can have this negative association to it. And now we're looking at our future self and meeting them. And that is productivity in itself. That's what we're all trying to do. We're trying to get better. We're trying to achieve goals. We're trying to be that future version of ourselves we want to be. So this is amazing.
Yes. So be reasonable with yourself. Yeah. Be reasonable. Yeah. And have grace and just put in the effort, put in the reps. Yeah. And commit to that 1% better, whatever that might be.
Yeah, love it. And I'd love to round off today with our little open mic section. Yes. So here, I'd love to hand it over to you and you can talk about genuinely anything you'd like to. So, yeah.
Well, I'm going to share a story. About what happened to me recently this year, January, that sort of changed the trajectory of some things I have been doing with my business. So I decided late last year that I would create a course for new solopreneurs. People who are just like, you know what? I want to do my own thing and I want to be a solo business owner. And I presented them with these 5 things that they should focus on, simplified things so they could get off the ground running. And I created this course and I got help creating the course. I was excited. I decided to launch the course. I created a series of emails to go out to people to let them know about the course. They got a lead magnet from me with lots of great information. And I was just sharing all this quality, what I thought was helpful information with them. And then I said, hey, my course is coming and I'm going to, because you've been with me this whole time, I'm going to give you this course at half price. I would love you to take this opportunity. I'm so excited about it and for you and this new journey you're going to be taking. And I got crickets. Zero. Nothing. No comments. Nobody even asking me one question, like nothing. And I was deflated. I mean, deflated beyond my own imagination. I didn't think that I could feel so low. And then I discovered that I looked in the email service providers data, and I could see that people are just not, they were dropping off at like email number 2. They just didn't, after that, they just didn't open anything else. And it just made me feel worse. And then I discovered that nobody got the emails. And that's why nobody responded.
Oh, no.
And then I discovered that in January when I created the emails back in October of the prior year. So this January, I discovered that all that stuff I thought I was sending, the data that said nobody opened after email number 2 is because emails 3 to 8 didn't go out. So it put me in a bit of a funk. My mindset, my view of myself, I was frustrated, I was angry, and I love the tech. I love technology. It just put me in this really negative space, and I leaned into my community. I leaned into my accountability group. Myself and two other business owners meet on a regular basis every week, same day, same time, and we talk about all our goals, what we're going to do, how, accountability. And so I leaned into them and I said, oh, I'm just feeling awful. And they helped pull me out of that valley of just, it felt like despair. And so I tell the story because, one, I'm happy to be on the other side of those feelings because those feelings were not fun. But I really lived the advice I share with clients, which is find yourself a squad. Find yourself, whether you call it a squad, a team, a tribe, a community, find yourself a group of people who cheer for you, who are straight with you, who are honest with you, and who walk with you when things feel not so good. And they help you to see possibilities and opportunities. Find that for yourself because it's really, really important. It was so important to me that I decided to create a community called the Thrive Hive, where we could all thrive together. You have questions about the tech? I'm there. Have a question about your business? I'm there. Want to do a deep dive into, how to use a particular tech tool so that you can be more productive? I'm all about it. Have a problem you want to discuss? I'm there too. So I say this because no matter where you are, whether you're a student, business owner, work a 9 to 5 or a 2 to 6 or whatever your situation is, you need a group of people to cheer for you, to walk with you, to walk the journey, whatever that journey is, to walk alongside you. So I hope everyone out there has that. And if not, this is the perfect time to start finding and building that tribe, that squad, that community, because it is so, so helpful.
And I feel like that is the absolute perfect way to finish off today's episode. Thank you so much for sharing that story of yours. Yes. That was personal. Thank you. Yeah. It was relatable. Everyone goes through those times where they feel really low, and sharing stories like that and having a community, like you said, who you can talk to that about, people who can help you remain accountable towards your goals, things that you want to do, things that you want to change. So important. So thank you so much for bringing that to us today.
Oh, my pleasure. Thank you for having me. So fun chatting with you.
It's so fun chatting with you too. Now, Deb, if we want to find out a bit more about you, where can we go?
So you can find me at dalisonlee.com or at dalisonlee on all the socials. So you can email me, deb@dalisonlee, go to my website, or find me on Instagram or TikTok or wherever people like to go these days.
Great. So we've also got Deb's details down in the description below if you did miss that. But thanks so much for tuning in, and we'll see you all next time. You have been listening to Work in Progress, the Personal Productivity Science Insights podcast produced by the Life Management Science Labs. Listen to episodes from LMSL's 10 Life Management Perspectives on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, or other podcasting apps on your smartphone. If you enjoyed this episode, please consider rating our show, sharing it, and subscribing to our channel, as it helps other people find it and us grow to bring you more quality resources. More of our work can be found on our website pp.lmsl.net, where you can join our movement. I'm Joanna. Thanks for tuning in.